Hi, welcome everybody to Plant a Good Seed podcast. My name is Tish Oakley and I am your host today. We're going to be joined today by some awesome folks, Jessica and John Rao, here in just a second. They've been busy this morning. Part of what we're going to talk about is the hemp industry and how it gets clogged up and mired down with political issues. And it's, as we all know, it's not just the hemp industry now, is it? So the real bigger picture is that people trying to find natural health cures. Hey, there they are, right on the farm. Hey guys, can you see us? There you are. How's it going?
It's going great. How are you doing today?
Good. So I was just starting to say that you guys have already almost had a full day today, haven't you?
We have, actually, yes. We've already been harvesting for a few hours. We're on our way to hang everything to dry after this.
Yay!
6:45 this morning, so it's we've got a full work day in already.
Woo! And good thing that Sally didn't get in your way, huh?
Yeah, we got very lucky.
Yeah, right. Can you tell folks a little bit, if you don't mind, introducing yourselves and telling folks a little bit about yourselves?
Yeah, thank you. Well, thank you for having us on your show. We're super excited.
Yeah, I'm so glad you're here.
So I'm Pro.
I'm John.
And we are the co-founders of Cannabis Consortium. So this is our second year in the hemp industry. And coming into the industry, we knew there was going to be a lot of obstacles, a lot of challenges, especially because we're but I feel that for us, until we really dove in, we didn't get the full picture of the challenges that we would see. So it's been quite an adventure, and we're excited to still be here.
Well, you know what you're talking about is really part of what's going on still in the hemp industry is there's no guidelines. There's no playbook. There's no, you're kind of writing it as you go. There's nothing, other industries, like if you wanted to build automobiles, you can study people for years and visit factories and do all kinds of things. But with the CBD, especially in North Carolina, that's really hard to do.
Yes. And there's been kind of an active against all of that, really. So when science becomes a more legitimate part of the conversation, I think there'll be a really big shift. And I think we're leaning toward that. So that's really exciting.
I think all of us at least around the country, are hoping for that big shift for science to take the first hold, right? Go science. Well, can you tell us a little bit about how you guys, why are you doing this? I mean, why get into hemp? Why cannabis? Why CBD? What caused you guys to go in this direction?
I'll take that one, I guess. I've always had a passion for horticulture. I studied that at NC State a little bit, and cannabis as well. And so when the pilot program in North Carolina started out, I kind of kept my eye on it for a few years, and then started to put a plan together, and spent 6 months calling processors and other farmers and seeing how they were doing, how they were able to sell their crops, and just getting the information behind it. And then April of 2019, we went full time. I quit my day job, and we leased the property out here and started planting. So it's really nice.
Oh, I can't hear you guys. You're breaking up. I don't know if other people can hear you or not, but somehow we lost volume. Can you hear me? It looks like you got muted. Did you hit the mute button? For some reason. Oh! Can I hear you now? I still can't hear you. Oh my goodness. That's also part of life on the farm, and sometimes you got connection and sometimes you don't. Goodness gracious. Well, yeah, if you guys can figure out that connection, that'd be great. I wonder if, yes, Kimberly Calhoun, that's exactly part of what we're talking about today, is that the NC laws are complicated, and they just keep getting pushed out. So we don't know what really the future is going to be of cannabis, of CBD grown in North Carolina, which I'm a native North Carolinian, and I've got a huge love for North Carolina, and I would love to see us have a cash crop once again, because back in the day, tobacco was our cash crop, and North Carolina farmers made a lot of money off and sustained a lot of people, sustained a lot of farms, sustained a lot of lifestyles off tobacco. Well, as tobacco sales have diminished, what is North Carolina's cash crop? Is it soybeans? What is it in agriculture? What is it that we're giving into society? What is it that, we can provide? And cannabis and CBD is definitely one of those, because it grows so well in North Carolina. I hope they come back on. And if one of the producers, let's see, can we hear you now? I still can't hear you. Are you talking? Right. Can't hear you. I don't know if other people can hear you or not, but something happened to my volume. But yeah, back to cash crops. So not only can cannabis hemp become something that can sustain North Carolina, but it also is an herb, right? So it also can help people. So, corn helps people, all those kind of things. But our society, I don't believe, has put enough belief, enough faith, or there's not enough testing, whatever it may be, on natural solutions to health. I know there's a lot of folks that have gotten a lot of relief from hemp and from CBD. And of course, hemp has so many uses. The plant can be used for so many different things, from clothing, from paper, from all kinds of things. But the health benefits are still being explored for CBD. Now, some people say that there's some dangers. You don't want to just go try a whole bunch of it. Anytime you do anything the first time, you definitely want to look into it, see what other medications you're taking, see what else is going on with your body, and just try slight amount. Now, I'm not a doctor. I'm not prescribing CBD or hemp to anybody, but what I am saying is that there are some people that have found relief from it, as well as other herbs. I know personally, I take a lot of herbs, not a lot, but some things, versus turn into the pharmaceuticals because of the way my body metabolizes it. The pharmaceuticals usually have tremendous side effects for me, whereas I find other things, natural solutions, don't have those side effects. So hopefully they'll get connected here pretty soon, and we can hear from them and what it's like. Now,
Ready?
Yep.
oh, I can hear you. Woo!
We switched over to the short field, so hopefully that'll be a little better.
Okay, well, good deal. I was just trying to, I definitely don't have the information you do, but of why this is important, why we even talk about this. Why are you farming cannabis and hemp? Why are we even talking about what's important? So the last question, so John, that was awesome for you to tell me about your horticulture background, but why cannabis? Why did you choose this plant to farm?
Well, like I said, it's always been a personal passion of mine, and one of the things that's come out of this and been so rewarding is just hearing all the feedback from the people that it has helped, and that's really been such a driver for us both. That above all else, hearing that feedback from people saying it helped me with whatever it was that they tried it for and they liked it, and that's been really rewarding.
Yeah, and something for me that kind of goes along with it is CBD can do so many things that it has kind of a reputation of being a snake oil. That can't be possible. It can't do all of those things. And then you get a random brand that you try at a gas station or in a drugstore that isn't pure, and now you think it doesn't work. So a part of it for us is definitely just providing a product that's pure, that works, that shows people, hey, you can try something alternative, something safe, and it doesn't have to cost a bunch of money. And, that's amazing.
That is, because it's so much more. Corn feeds people, but it doesn't actually improve their health. or
Yes.
change their state, right? Because that's what we want to do, that naturally, which is one of the things that we're so aligned with. So let's talk a little bit more, because it's such an effort, because I know this from other farmers, to be an organic farm. I mean, just that in itself has got so many things you guys got to do to bring us, your consumer, that pure product. Like, for example, so I don't know if you can tell, but I'm in a different place. I'm hanging out with a friend of mine, and he showed me something. He's like, this is all natural. And I looked at it and I was like, it says ingredients, what natural ingredients, but we don't know what's in that. So it's a lot of people are also being told that they're consuming natural ingredients, but they don't know what that is. Whereas with you guys, Cannabis Consortium, I mean, I've been on those fields. You take it right from it's awesome. I mean, you're not putting pesticides on there. You're not putting chemicals on there. You're not poisoning you know what I mean? It's so natural. So can you tell us a little bit about what it's like to be an organic farmer?
Yes, well, I'll let you take that one. I feel John has had the most of the grasshopper excitement this season.
Grasshopper, caterpillars.
Grasshoppers, caterpillars. I mean, so for us, I mean, like you said, we're not using anything on the plants. So that creates its own challenge.
Yes.
The ponds on the field to water the fields.
Yeah.
Yep.
We're using castings to help grow the plants, so they're not going to be 10 times the size that they could be, maybe.
Yeah.
But we also know that we're putting nothing else in what we're growing, and that makes us feel awesome.
It should make your customers feel awesome. I mean, like I said, whenever you put something in your body, and a show we had here, a podcast we had a few weeks ago, Ludi the Menton explained to us how our DNA actually has triggers on it. And we never know what's going to trigger, either like skin issues, digestive issues, or even something major, that we never know what's going to trigger. And it could be the chemicals that are being put on our food, or the genetic mutations too, because that's a whole other part of organic farming, isn't it? That you can't use anything. Mm-hmm. We're going to dance. Woo! But yeah, so John, some of the rules that you have to follow. So if it's not hard enough being a hemp and CBD farmer in an industry where people don't really know what the rules are and they're making them up, it seems like kind of as we go. But then to also be an organic farmer, and we'll get back to the hemp in just a minute and what it really is entailing for you guys. But let's talk a minute about the organic farming and just some of the rules and regulations and a cost as well.
Well, we're not a certified organic farm.
Okay.
So that's a whole nother level, and that's.
Is it 3 years?
Well, yeah,
I've heard it's 3 years. Yeah,
3 years with be able to prove that nothing non-organic has been used for 3 years. But I mean, that's just my own personal challenge, I guess, is to just those practices and not go any synthetic fertilizers or pesticides or anything like that. So although we're not certified, it took me some time to kind of research. All right, here's what's conventionally used, and rates of fertilization for conventional fertilizer, and then kind of translating that into, well, if we're only using worm castings and seabird guano, how much of that do we need to be putting down to try to mimic those same nutrient levels and make sure the plants are getting what they're needing. So we were able to do that with some irrigation lines, drip lines through the plants.
Nice.
Fed the root system directly. We also,
very nice.
Just did some like foliar sprays and applied the nutrients directly to the leaves early on in their growth stage. So those are the things that we've done to just try to meet those challenges.
Yeah,
but
the plastic.
and
the water.
Yeah. So one of the things is it's very common in the hemp industry is plasticulture, which is essentially when you form your row, you're putting a layer of plastic on top of the dirt to keep plants from keep the weeds down.
Okay.
And so one of the things we did this year was found a company called Film Organic, and their plastic actually is biodegradable. So after we're done, I'll just disc the field, and it's more fertilizer for the field. Which
Nice.
And it's a great thing for us because trying to get the plastic up from last year was absolutely horrible.
Yeah.
So we're glad.
No.
Yeah, that's. I mean, again, you learn every year, and that's one of the things we learned last year. So, and being more aware and more conscious of what we're doing and what we're putting on the land, and realizing that plastic, was not a good idea last year. Not only did it cost us a bunch of labor, but it's plastic, and
it's not good for the environment.
We had to pick it all up. So
yeah.
We're polluting to do it. So
yeah,
it's nice to do that.
Yep.
Anytime you can complete that full cycle of nature, right? Because that's really my thing is balance. And so if you can complete that cycle and purpose for something else, purpose for something else, purpose for something else, and it just keeps going, is really the way nature's intended to be. So you're working with nature in that way. But so that's really interesting. It's so funny when I asked you about organic farming and you first started talking about the health of the plants, right? Trying to make them big and strong. That's a farmer, right? Ooh, let's make it grow. But let's talk about the darn caterpillars and locusts. So when you're trying to do things naturally, you can't just spray. I remember my great uncle just spraying away all kinds of stuff that stunk.
Not yet, at least.
No.
I'm still working on that solution. This year and last year, physical removal. We're going out there and
shaking the plants
off. Watching all the insects fly away and fall to the ground, and hoping that they don't come back. Essentially, I mean, there are some things. Diatomaceous earth is one. That one's really good. And then I've been doing some research on ionized water. I still haven't really reached any conclusions for myself on that, but that may be something that we might be able to use in the future to kind of as a integrated pest management catch-all. So I'm hoping that'll be the case, but again, I haven't made any conclusions on that yet.
Gotcha. Now, there's also insects that eat other insects too, right?
Yep. There's some beneficials. We did those, some of those last year. We had some greenhouse plants last year for a little while before we put them in the field. And so one of the big things for cannabis is mites, especially in a greenhouse setting. They really like dry conditions, and without rain, obviously it's pretty dry. So we had mites in the greenhouse last year, and so there's beneficial, essentially predator mites that you can release and have them eat the bad ones. Praying mantises are good, ladybugs are good. But part of the reason we moved everything outside last year was because this farm has such a great ecosystem that those pest problems went away. If I noticed a plant that had mites on it, the next day I would come back and notice that there's predators on it.
Yay! The cycle works.
It's a lot easier being outside.
Yeah. You see a couple aphids, and then the next day you'd see a bunch of ladybugs all over that plant. So that makes things a lot easier.
So we need to figure out what eats the caterpillars.
Yeah. I mean, I know the turkeys have been eating them, but aside from
we'll celebrate a little more at Thanksgiving this year.
And
fat turkeys
and wasps. So as much as I don't like stinging insects, it's kind of nice to see wasps running around the field.
It's there's a purpose. Each one has a purpose for something else, doesn't it?
That's right.
That's totally
to just be out here seeing all. That's really cool. Really something.
Yeah. And we were going to talk about it at the end, but let's go ahead and talk about it now. And people are going to have a chance. If you're in North Carolina, people are going to have a chance to come out there and see it for themselves, aren't they?
Yes. So this year we're doing a Harvest Your Own event. So we want everybody to just get to know us and get to see what we're doing out here. I feel like there's so much miscommunication about cannabis, about hemp. And I feel like it would just help break down a lot of barriers to just be out here, to see it for yourself, to take home your own. So we really hope people come out. Tish will be here leading our
Yes.
Yes. So
It's going to be awesome.
It's going to be really fun. I'm excited to just see what people think of it once they're in person with it. I know for me, I mean, I had a lot of misconceptions. There was so much I didn't know before getting into it that is just, it's kind of mind blowing to be out here in person and see it and smell it and see where it comes from. It's really neat.
Pictures really don't do it justice.
Yeah. As you know.
That's right. That's right. Because when I first drove up, I just kept like, whoa, my eyes, because I'll be honest with folks. I mean, we all do what we do, and we did what we did, and to be able to see things live is just such a different, and it's such a clean farm too, is what I really was amazed by. I mean, even though there were some weeds, it was really clean, and it felt, the atmosphere was really nice. I mean, the layout was just beautiful. So if anybody wants to get back, wants to see what it's about, learn about it, touch it, smell it, even that was something. Just driving in, it was like, whoo, you could smell it.
Get some aromas. I got jamming up our.
There he is. No, I was wondering. Too bad you can't train him how to shake the bugs off the plants.
Yeah, we got to get him digging up the roots. Get him on the harvest team. He's got a lot to learn.
He's got it easy now, man. But it's only so long, huh?
Right.
Because even your children, I don't know if Mark or Ankit are there, but I sent them your pictures because even your children were getting, it was really cute. I mean, it's really a family harvest. It's a family environment that you guys have with Cannabis Consortium. It's just beautiful.
It really is. And honestly, at the beginning, a part of it was just because there was no choice. I mean, it's us and it's them. Well, that's what we're doing today. So come out and help us. But honestly, they've really enjoyed it. They're learning a ton. Last year, they learned how to clone. They've planted the seeds with us.
Wow.
The seed leaves with us. They've done everything. They're here when we're here, and we ask them to pitch in, and they do. And they've learned a lot. It's been really fun.
Well, I don't want to go too much in a different direction, but I think that's part of what is missing from some of the family values that we have when people keep their lives separated and their kids are, I'm doing this, but you're going to do this. And there's not enough there's, people eating together, but actually doing stuff and accomplishing stuff as a family. There's so much of that that's not happening anymore. So that's an awesome thing that you guys are getting them involved in all the things they're learning. My son for years was always like, how am I going to use what I'm learning in school? And my gosh, your kids right away are cannabis farmers.
It's funny. Sometimes it makes us laugh to hear the things that come out of their mouths. Just the stuff that they picked up, stuff that they hear us say. They're going to be great cannabis makers.
Well, let's jump back into we talked a little bit about organic farming. Let's jump back into being a cannabis or hemp farmer in general. And then we've got the issues in North Carolina, right?
Yes.
So let's talk about in general, right? So cannabis, I know 20 years ago, we never heard about, all we heard about was pot, which is, the THC cannabis. So let's go ahead and make some distinctions there. What's considered cannabis, CBD, THC? What all are we talking about for people that aren't aware?
Yeah. So cannabis is a scientific classification, essentially, that is all-encompassing. Hemp is cannabis. Marijuana is cannabis.
Okay.
The real difference is just the types and the amounts of cannabinoids that the plants produce. So, and you can look at the language used in the farm bills in 2014 and 2018. They defined hemp as having below 0.3% THC. And so that's what. That's what actually defines hemp, is just the level of THC. And I mean, you can look at our plants that are grown for CBD. They look exactly like a marijuana plant. So
yes, they do. At least as far as I know.
So, there's not really a big distinction there. It's just about what's contained in those trichomes. What those cannabinoids the plant is producing. That's where the distinction is made. And so, we spend, multiple days every year going through all the available genetics and selecting seeds that we think are going to perform well, that have the attributes we want, and that's a whole process every year. So
it's kind of, they grow differently on the East Coast than they do on the West Coast. Climate has a lot to do.
Yes.
So THC produced and increased by stressors. Heat is a stressor. Obviously, in North Carolina, that's an issue.
Yeah.
So
humidity, drought, stuff like that has been linked to spikes in THC. So, and that 0.3 threshold is really low.
It's very hard to meet that requirement. And actually, last year we did have to bring it hot.
Yep.
And the state came and burned it down. And they, asked what day would be a good day to burn down your strain, and we said never, but they came anyway.
Today's not never. This isn't never.
They actually just supervised us burning it down.
So. That was a herb.
That'd be even harder, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
To burn your own field down.
Yeah, but this year they're all compliant. So we're growing.
Yes.
We're learning and growing.
So I had somebody tell me a while back, and I don't know if this is true or not, but it just seemed a little crazy to me. But there's a lot of crazy things in the world, isn't there, until you're educated about it. She said that the way they make sure that the plants don't have THC is to like stress them out or something. She said they had to score them with a knife is what they were doing to try to make sure they didn't have THC or something like that. I didn't understand that.
No, I haven't heard anything about that. I think my understanding is they've just bred them to either, higher and higher amounts of THC on the West Coast side, with medical marijuana and things of that nature. Those high THC levels are definitely concerted efforts to say this one had a lot of THC. We're going to increase this one and try to increase it. And so they've done a lot of the same with hemp. Some of the genetics in hemp are, they started out higher in THC, and they selectively bred again and again until they got the level of THC below that threshold. As far as I know, I don't think there's anything you could do if a plant's going to produce THC.
It's the way it's bred is what you're saying, but you're saying that stress and different factors can change the levels of it. But if it's a CBD or hemp seed, it's a CBD hemp seed is the bottom line.
Yeah. And
Gotcha.
I've read some almost like they related it to like the XY chromosomes. Almost like a CBD plant would have a double X, and some CBD plants have an XY, and then marijuana plants would have a YY. So those ones that have the XY, where it's kind of part CBD and part THC, those are the ones that have the highest potential to go hot.
Gotcha. Well, let's just hope.
And by going hot, I have too much THC.
Gotcha. Well, the way that you're describing it kind of sounds like the bathroom dilemma we had a few years ago. Let's hope that these hemp seeds keep their chromosomes whatever they need to be. Yeah. I mean, you can be whatever you want to be unless you're getting tested by the FDA, huh?
Yeah.
Then you need to be less than 3%.
With any luck, all that will blend a little bit more anyway, and you can have a little bit more of that.
Yeah, I got to tell you, when CBD first started hitting the shelves, and I had friends that were like, it really works. My stomach's better, or my head's better, or my skin's better, or I sleep better, or whatever's better. I made fun of them all because I was like, it's got THC in it, because the thought was, and then, folks like you definitely show how the testing and all the stuff that's got to go into it to prove, because you can't label it and sell it if it's got it in it.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, there is a lot of evidence of the entourage effect, the idea that CBD does work better with a little bit of THC. So, thank you. There are a lot of different
Gotcha.
CBD types that you can buy. There's an isolate, you know, it has absolutely no THC in it, which if you're getting drug tested for work, you probably want that one.
Yep.
Ours is a full spectrum, which means that it has trace amounts of THC in it. It has the level required by state, which is 0.3% or less. But the idea is that it works better in conjunction with your body system. It's delivered more efficiently and can be used in different ways.
Yeah, some of the
Gotcha.
the more interesting things here in the medical marijuana world, a lot of the demand out west is for plants that have a 1-to-1 ratio of THC to CBD. And they're finding that to be really effective for a lot of people, and it's kind of flying off the shelves. So,
Yeah, it still surprises me. I mean, honestly, why marijuana is not THC is not legal across the country when there's so many other drugs. I mean, I'm sorry, but my true feelings, people are drugged up. I mean, people take drugs all the time for all kinds of things, and they don't know what's in those drugs. They're synthetically manufactured. Oh, now I got to take this drug for that drug. And we're poisoning ourselves, I think.
And the side effects they list are insane. I mean,
death. You could die.
Yeah, exactly. You hear a drug to get rid of a headache, but maybe they're like, oh, but it might give you stomach cancer. Sorry about that. But you don't have a headache. Isn't that great? So, you know, the North Carolina Cannabis Lobby actually has huge things going on right now. You can go to their website. It's nccannabislobby.com. There's a huge push starting on Monday to just get calls in to representatives because there's a North Carolina medical bill headed to the floor. So we just want to make our voices heard. We want people to know that we want it to be a medical option. I mean, it works for so much, and it's so much more natural. You can say hi.
Hi. Hi. You guys did a good job this morning. Way to go. That's right. Cool. So let's talk a little bit then. If we're talking about medical, let's talk about the relationship between cannabis and CBD farmers and doctors and the medical community. So what kind of efforts, my first thought is, you know, if we want to get a bill passed, we definitely need the politicians, but we also need doctors to recognize CBD and cannabis as a viable solution, you know, something that somebody can potentially choose without a lot of side effects, right?
Yeah.
I mean, bottom line. So, hey, there's more farmers. You got a whole clan of farmers. Hey. Hey there! How you all doing?
Good. We're doing good.
Good. You need to show us your dog here pretty soon.
Bandit is over here.
Because we saw him. He was trying to help this morning. He was chewing on something. Not sure what it was. Didn't look like it was hemp.
Hopefully just a hemp stock. Just getting his CBD in for
Right. Your dog's going to be one of the best feeling dogs of all dogs eating that hemp.
So I think that as far as doctor goes, it's like a chicken or the egg kind of argument.
Right.
Until we are able to do more actual research and have evidence as to what it works for and that it works. Just a minute, please. I'm not sure they're going to be ready to get on board because I feel like they are in a predicament themselves. They don't want to be recommending something that they're not sure of, but there's not enough research available.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, they have to look out for what they're recommending as well. And the FDA has approved what they're recommending. Whether or not we agree with what the FDA approves is
Right.
But I think until they have evidence, you know, to support their decision to back it, you know, that's going to be tricky.
And a lot of the challenge there is, you know, FDA approved research. You know, there is some medical research out there to support a lot of the claims, but you know, it's not FDA approved. You know, if you really look at a lot of the stuff is out of Europe, and Israel in particular, they're one of the leaders for cannabis research, just because, you know, they didn't stop the research on it in the 60s. They've been doing research on cannabis.
Good.
When America stopped, they just continued. And that, you know, another challenge there is that getting approved to research the cannabis has been extremely difficult. That's one of the lawsuits against the DEA right now, is their lack of approval or dragging their feet.
Holy moly!
Research. So, as disheartening as that is, I guess it's good that they're getting sued, and that maybe we'll see some changes in that area in the near future.
There's Mark Lee. He's our producer. Mark, meet Jessica and John.
How are y'all doing? Sorry that I was out of pocket, but unfortunately, we usually have two producers working on this show, but one of our other ones was having some issues where he's at, so I had to end one and begin another. So I was enjoying some of the conversation and hearing what y'all were saying, and I know that there's definitely got to be some changes made in the rules and the laws. So definitely was glad to hear what y'all were talking about, and we'll let Tish continue the conversation, but I may jump in with some other questions and thoughts later on.
I was going to say, Mark, I was starting to wonder. I was like, where's Mark at? But then it's funny, you jump in when we're ready to talk about the politics. But so this is really the juiciest. I mean, there's definite benefits. We could talk about the benefits of CBD forever. We could grab all kinds of people to talk about all kinds of benefits to their person and their pets, right? So there's all kinds of benefits out there. But let's go into, lawsuits against the DEA. Now, I haven't been deep in industries to hear of all of this, but let's talk about this. And thank gosh, somebody brought the lawsuit against the DEA, for heaven's sakes. I mean, so what, and you said just one of the lawsuits. So we've got that one, right?
So that's one, is the approval to do research. And the other one, which is really interesting, is they're getting sued over the Schedule I designation. So I think the last time that they were asked to review cannabis's scheduling was, I think it was in 2016 or 2014, something like that. And prior to that, it was in the early 90s. But each time they've just kind of gone through that and said, no, we're going to keep it Schedule I. And
so what does Schedule I mean? Let's back up just a minute.
So the big thing for Schedule I, as I understand it, is that it has no medicinal use. And a high likelihood of abuse. And someone would have a pretty tough time convincing me of either one of those, especially just for the pharmaceutical industry to have created synthetic replications of THC and CBD, and they're used medically, but then to say that the plant so
it's politics.
That's why they're getting sued.
If you could leach I'm going to say a bad word, Mark, get ready for your buzzer. If you could leach the bullshit out of politics, you'd be able to fertilize your field for the rest of your life and your children's life, my friend.
But Tish, along those same lines, I didn't beep you out and everything, but along those same lines, and I was wondering if those fine folks over there could comment on as well. As I understand it, a lot of things that have been involved, whether it's cannabis or whether it's hemp or whatever, were actually very much the norm in our early days of history and everything like that. I think that I read somewhere that the Constitution is actually written on hemp. So I think that it is actually written on hemp paper. I think that I read that somewhere or heard that.
It's on parchment, which is animal. But a lot of the drafts for it were written on hemp because that was very common. But they wrote the actual Constitution on parchment paper, so which is made out of animals. But I was just reading. I actually just read the Schaefer report for the first time. Nixon he formed a commission to research cannabis and or marijuana, I guess specifically, and it turns out he didn't follow any of the recommendations of that commission, and that's really the kind of final push for making that illegal and for the Schedule I designation, and that was in 1972, I want to say.
Wow.
And then up until 1937, there really wasn't any regulation of cannabis, and it was in a bunch of medicines. It was very common to have, to find medicines that had cannabis in there. And essentially what they did, the tax act, marijuana tax act, was kind of the first in 1937, was kind of the first push to make that illegal. And most of that push was driven by propaganda. I mean, it was public opinion, and a lot of that was based on, the fear of brown people.
Right.
A lot of Mexican immigrants started to come into the country in the 1930s, and so that's where the term marijuana comes from. It comes from that culture, and that's why marijuana is the bad substance, whereas hemp, that's not so bad, right? That doesn't have that connotation that marijuana's always had. And so a lot of the public opinion, they didn't really know what they were outlining at the time. A lot of the evidence points to, the distinction between hemp and marijuana. They didn't really realize it was the same plant.
Right.
They made it.
Yeah, because one of the things I've been wondering about is, as I understand history and I try to be a student of history and everything of that nature, is that the kind of move to get rid of alcohol kind of rules and regulations was around the same time as the swine flu. So I'm thinking that we're going to see, and have already seen, a great push toward legalization around the country during this time of COVID. So I'm wondering sometimes if there are these historical parallels that happen as well, because I don't know how many states currently have it. I know that it was a lot in the West Coast, but it's a number of states that have legalized it. And I'm actually thinking that it'll probably be totally legalized within the next, I would guess, 5 to 10 years. But that's just my thoughts. And I think that it might be because of what's going on with COVID and because of the parallels that exist between what happened with the swine flu, and that was around the same time as the alcohol prohibition kind of rules and everything, and what's going on now. What are y'all thoughts on that?
That's an awesome point.
Yeah.
I think there's already been a lot of conversation about it anyway, and this is absolutely the push that it's going to take, probably. I think you're absolutely right. I feel like the economy could really use it. People are at a place where they're more open-minded about it. We need something different right now.
And like you said, it's 33 states where the population has some access to legal cannabis. And I think it was 25% of the U.S. population. Out of those 33 states, it accounts for 25% of the U.S. population. So, it's kind of silly to think that large of a segment of the population has access, but there's no federal regulation of any kind.
Right.
And, no federal oversight. They're just kind of ignoring 25% of the population. So, hopefully,
which is a lot of people.
Yeah, that's a whole lot of people. Now, what is y'all's? Because I've had conversations with friends of mine. I actually, just for my own personal reasons, don't smoke anything or anything of that nature. But I sometimes have friends, and I'm definitely about folks' freedom to be able to do whatever they want to in those regards. But I have some friends that are definitely always trying to think of it as a gateway drug. So when you hear people that try to make that kind of conversation about it being a gateway drug, what is your argument against them? Because I do hear folks that try to talk about it being a gateway drug to something horrible.
Sure.
Well, I was just going to point out the exact opposite. I mean, the states where cannabis use has become legal medically or recreationally, opioid use is way down. I mean, that's exactly the opposite of what a gateway drug would be doing.
Yeah.
Would it not?
But the opioid use being down, if you're talking about pharmaceutical opioid use being down, that's the problem, because then the pharmaceuticals are losing their foothold and losing their share until the pharmaceuticals can figure out how to sell this and make money off of it. It's going to stay. At least that's been my opinion, because I don't understand it. Like Mark said, what you do, I mean, like, if you want to eat meat, eat meat. If you want to be a vegetarian, be a vegetarian. You want to drink alkaline water, you want to drink spring water. It's your body. It's your life. You know what I mean? And it just gets me because there are proven, but I've got to get back to a point, if I could, that I just think is so friggin' ironic. So the government has labeled this class 1, but yet there's not a great deal of research on it, and nobody's doing research on it. And there's even a lawsuit for research. So in my mind, how did the government classify it as a friggin' class 1 if there's not the research body out there for it?
And,
Well,
okay, go ahead.
Well, it's so funny because I just read this report for the first time, yesterday. But that Schaefer report from 1972 called for lots of research to be done. It just never was. Like I said, the recommendations weren't followed. They decided to schedule it as a Schedule 1 anyway, even though even though the recommendations said otherwise. And Mark, to your question, they also addressed the gateway drug issue in that Schaefer report, and the consensus among all of their research, and this included speaking to law enforcement at the time, was that it was not a gateway drug. And I've heard the argument that the only reason it might be a gateway drug is because you have to go to a drug dealer to get it, and they might have other drugs there for you to try.
So right now, like I said, there's so much going on in the industry right now. There's so much to look into, and we do have a link on our site for some of these things. But one of the really big things going on right now is the MORE Act, M-O-R-E.
Okay.
And exactly what it's trying to do is trying to decriminalize marijuana. It's trying to decriminalize cannabis. It's trying to expunge the records of people who have been in trouble with cannabis. It would allow cannabis industry people to have access to loans.
Yeah.
So it's a really big, important one. It's a great time to voice your concerns about getting it passed because it would do so much. It would, at the very least, decriminalize it and change it from that Schedule 1 substance.
So what should people do then? You're saying that we need to, you had mentioned before that we needed to contact our legislatures, right?
Yep. If you go to our website, we have a section of how to take action from home, and we have links.
Mark, can you pull that up?
I can do that, but I was actually going to ask them as well if they would say that website so folks can hear it, but I can also pull it up and bring it up as well. But if you'll tell folks the name of that website, we can definitely pull it up and all of that.
Oh, sure. It's Cannabis Consortium, NC, NorthCarolina.com. And we've got a link to just kind of the bigger things that are going on right now. We have a link to find your representatives so that you can contact them. Some of them have some sample scripts that you can kind of just fill in the blanks. But it's just really important to make your voice heard. I mean, the idea is that 2/3 of Americans want to see cannabis legalized. And if they start hearing about that, they'll have more of a reason to vote yes for us on behalf of all of us, to give us more access, to give us more research, to decriminalize it. I mean, it's in a category with heroin.
Yeah.
I heard a comedian, one of my favorite jokes, I heard a comedian talking about, the difference. Now, this was alcohol and pot, but he said, when you get drunk, all kinds of things, you can get in fights, you can get in car accidents, all kinds of things can happen. But what's the worst thing that's going to happen when you get high? You're going to forget your keys. So, I mean, and that's why it's just the research. So the lawsuit against, tell me about that lawsuit and where we are with that lawsuit, even about the research, because I understand people want evidence. I get it.
Yeah. So I'm not real sure where they are with that. The latest thing that I read was that they were looking at the approval process for researching cannabis, and I believe that the action was the DEA said, okay, yeah, we will address how we are looking at these applications. And I don't know, how satisfactory of an answer that is, but that's the latest that I read on it, at least, was that, they took the lawsuit and said, okay, yeah, we'll look at how we are approving or disapproving these applications to do research. So, and I believe, I want to say that there has been a couple of approvals given here in the last year.
Well, that's good.
And one of the big things that's been holding back research is that the cannabis is only supplied by one one university.
Ah,
Or something.
Yeah, it's either Missouri or
I think
Mississippi.
it's Mississippi.
I think it's Mississippi too. And so they have one strain of cannabis, which when you think about it, that's not what's available. That's not what people are using. So,
but the point is, again, just like we learned from Ludi, is my body's going to react differently to that strain than your body is.
Yep.
That's right.
Right? So if you just test one strain, you're just going to get those people's effects on that strain versus it's kind of, to me, like I look at it kind of like wine. The first time I had wine, I was like, oh, I don't like wine. Now I absolutely adore wine because there's like so many different kinds out there, and they all taste different, for heaven's sakes. The different years, they taste different.
That's exactly right. For me, when I was first trying CBD for anxiety, I tried 4 strains before I found one that worked for me before we were making our own, and it was a different strain than what worked for him. And it's all very specific, just like you said.
Gotcha. And so what's that?
Go ahead.
I was going to say, now let's take it down a little bit further to North Carolina. We've been talking kind of generally about nationally, the dialogue that's going on. But here in North Carolina, Jessica, you were telling me about the farm bills that are approved, not approved. I mean, 315. I mean, gosh, it's almost like they don't. I feel like when I was reading about it, the government doesn't really know which direction they're going in, and they just keep kicking that can. And you guys, we have people in the industry that can is your life, and they just keep we'll address it in another 2 months. So let's tell folks a little bit about what, I guess, is it 315 is, and how that's affecting you guys.
What's 315? Which one is 315?
That's the bill.
House Bill 315 included a ban on smokable hemp.
Okay.
One of the other things that it did, though, or would have done, was to give North Carolina the authority to write a plan for the USDA. So essentially, the pilot program for hemp is set to expire on October 30th of this year. And so that was the deadline that the USDA gave to all the states to write a plan that meets our requirements. You can be more restrictive, but you can't be less restrictive than the USDA. And so in an effort to pass the North Carolina Farm Act, they stripped all of the language regarding hemp out of the bill. So North Carolina doesn't have the authority to even write a plan. So at the end of October, we hope we're not criminals.
Basically, what we were told is that as long as we have harvested all of our plants and they have passed the state tests by October 30th, then we are safe. We can continue to use it to process our oils and to sell it. But after that time, basically, our license is invalid. Anything left in the fields can be seized. It can be burned. We can be charged for it. So it's just, there's a lot up in the air in the industry all the time. When we first got started and we were trying to set everything up to create a business, we couldn't find a bank that would work with us. We didn't want to take money from the bank. We wanted somewhere to put our money.
That's crazy.
There's, that's another thing that's on our website that is it's just a really important issue right now. It's the Safe Banking Act. And cannabis professionals do not have access to safe banking. You can't do anything without a bank. You look like a criminal. We can't operate in cash.
Here's $8,000 for worm poo.
So, and it's just the red tape is endless. It's surprisingly endless, and the things that you run into are things that you just kind of can't believe. And so there's just a lot of reform that needs to happen, but a lot is happening right now all at the same time. It's an election year, and it's just really important, if you have the time, to just try to take a look, try to point and click, just try to know what you can help with. I mean, there's a lot that we need help with. That's not going to happen without some laws changing.
Speaking of reform, how many of the traditional industries of North Carolina farming are actually turning to cannabis? Because I know North Carolina has always prided itself on being a tobacco industry and a cotton state and things of that nature. So, how many folks are actually turning to cannabis as an alternative? Because a lot of those industries are in trouble now.
It was a lot last year. It's less this year. As a commodity, hemp biomass really tanked last year. They started writing contracts that were essentially about $40 a pound for hemp biomass, and this year they're like $10 a pound. So
and people are scared. Nobody knows what's happening.
Yeah, that's.
So,
I wouldn't if I thought I'd be out of business by October 30th. I mean, not even able to plant. I mean, much less harvest or create the oil. Okay, now oils are out. Like, okay, but we can do other things. Why would I go into it? Why would I do it?
And like I said, I mean, we knew coming into the industry there was going to be a lot of obstacles, but we didn't see any of this. None of this was an obstacle that we were. That was happening at the time. So a lot's changed in just one year, and a lot's going on this year.
And the CBD market is a little different than the fiber market. And the biggest thing with fiber, aside from all the regulatory uncertainty, is processing the fiber. America's not really set up to do that yet. There are some really big decortication plants that are opening this year, and so hopefully next year there'll be a better market for maybe some of these cotton farmers or hay producers to switch and grow a different grain and grow that hemp for fiber.
Gotcha. Wow. So, but now y'all's fields, y'all are planting hemp. Are y'all going to cycle fields and plant other things on the fields because of like you were saying, some farmers will plant corn and they'll plant something else that puts the nitrogen in the soil. Kind of crop rotation, I think it's called. I don't really know.
You're breaking up a little bit. It sounds like you're asking, are we only planting hemp?
Well, we're participating in kind of crop rotations next year, provided laws are in place and you can grow it, no problem. Are you guys going to plant hemp in the exact same spot, or are you going to put something else in to do something different with the soil? I'm just curious about the yearly cycle, not too much so.
Right. That's something I'm it's work in progress. I would like to do some cover crops over the winter. Things like clover that'll put nitrogen back in the ground, daikon radishes that'll grow deep into the ground and get better drainage. So that's kind of some of the stuff that I'm looking at. But companion plants, again, lack of research. There's really not a lot of know-how to say this works really well planted beside cannabis. It's going to, be a sister plant to it. Where I've heard you can plant basil next to tomatoes and they'll grow really well together. There's not really a lot to say in that regard for cannabis. Lavender is kind of on my list to try out.
Sure.
I love lavender, but only certain lavender grow well in North Carolina in my experience. My Spanish lavender is produced hard. That's why on it. Peach lavender, not so much.
That makes me feel better about my lavender growth. It's been pretty hard.
Yeah, it's the type. You gotta get the right type. It's like you said about the seeds and CBD.
You gotta get the right stuff.
Mark and I were talking back and forth. He was saying I might need to pop back on, but you're responding to me, so I'm thinking I'm good now, Mark.
It's still breaking up on this end. I think that they were saying the same thing, so you might need to pop in and out. I might just ask them a little quick questions about their background, and we'll see where we can go from there and everything. But y'all have gotten into farming and everything. I'm gonna let y'all know that I grew up in a rural town. I grew up in Warrenton. I'm a Durham native, so I grew up, and I remember that when I moved to Warrenton, and I think I was a youngster at the time, that the folks would get out of school for farming. So I was a little bit jealous of them for that reason, because there would be a couple of weeks that the school was a little bit emptier and
Oh,
it wasn't as big. So how long have y'all been involved in the farming industry, not just in the cannabis industry, but both of you, did you grow up in this kind of farming environment, or is this something that
yeah.
y'all decided to do much later in life?
We basically just kind of jumped off a cliff and
Yeah.
decided it's time for a change and we're going to try it out. And that's what we did. So that's why we're leasing land. We kind of wanted to see if we could do it. So this is our second grow year. And like we said, we're kind of learning as we go. But with everything going on with the pandemic, you know, all the schools are operating so much differently. So in a way, it's been nice to be able to have the kids so much more involved this year. You know, last year, a lot of it was they would be with us on their breaks, on their track outs. And this year they get to see a lot more of it. So that's been a positive.
So that's been real positive that y'all have
Hey.
joined. Yep.
The internet Wi-Fi stuff. So not good.
Still having the same issue. I don't know what's going on with.
You're talking about get the next thing. Let's talk about what you guys make out of your CBD and your hemp, and how people can use the products.
What is she at? I can't.
You're still breaking up really bad, but I think you asked about what kind of products we make with our CBD.
Yes, that's what she was asking.
So we sell a couple different things. We've got just essentially raw hemp that you can smoke. We also have a tincture, which is CBD suspended in MCT oil. And we also have a cream that was a topical lotion product.
What are some of the things that folks might? Yeah, I'm saying, what are some of the things that folks might be surprised about in terms of purposes for cannabis and things of that nature? Of course, most folks think of certain things, but what are some of the things that they might be surprised that you can use cannabis for?
So let me tell you what we do in our house, because we like to be able to try to answer questions. We would like to be on the research end of things. So for us, yes, the way we do it with our basically unlimited supply of CBD, we say, have you guys seen my big fat Greek wedding? And the dad is always using Windex on everything. He's like, oh, put a little Windex on it. So that's basically how we operate. We're like, we try to for it. We use it for a bandit for teething right now.
Our dog,
so it's
wow.
Humans and animals use the same kind. It's just a much smaller dose for animals. So we don't sell a human and animal specific brand. But we put a few drops on his milk bone, and there is a very noticeable difference. I mean, he goes from laying on the floor whimpering at us, chewing on everything, to just kind of feeling a little bit more mellow, being a little bit more nice. We've used it on sunburns, we use it on cuts, we use it for sleeping,
joint aches, I mean, sore muscles.
I was joking with a neighbor the other day that had a doorbell issue, and I was like, well, put a little CBD cream on it, see what happens.
A doorbell.
Why not?
Get the ding dong forward right again. No problem.
So that kind of goes back to, this lack of research. Nothing that we say is FDA approved, right? I can't make any medical claims.
Yes, the FDA does not approve any of these statements, you guys.
Yeah. That's one of the things the FDA can do right now. They've issued warning letters to companies that, they've singled out and said, you guys are making medical claims in your advertisements, or you're putting it into food. That's a very thin line that we have to walk there.
Yeah, and it's the same with advertising. We're not allowed to advertise almost anywhere. So we have to get creative with letting people know that we exist as an option. I mean, we're a really pure family-run company, and we have a hard time getting our name out there because there's a lot of question about it. People aren't sure. So
something as simple as like a Google ad for our website. Google doesn't accept any CBD advertisement, so we're just kind of out of luck.
Oh,
there.
wow.
Yeah, big names, surprising names. So that's one of the reasons.
Well, it could be. But, at the same time, it may not be that surprising because they may be politically motivated.
Maybe.
I hate to keep bringing this political conspiracy thing into it, but I can't figure out any other reason, for something that people have shown the relief from it, and why are we not paying attention to it, but yet we still batter people with chemotherapy, radiation, drug, all this stuff that hurt people. And I remember my grandfather was on type of emphysema medicine, and it made his skin so you couldn't touch him because he would bleed. That's okay. So anyway,
exactly. That's exactly right. So there's just I feel like, there's a lot to be brought to the conversation, and there's just a lot of misconception available. So a big part of what we like to do is just talk to people and just tell them about our experience with it and the things that we know about it, and people are usually pretty surprised.
Yeah.
Well, we have
so in addition to being able, go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, I was going to say, when you talk to folks out in the public, what is the thing that is most surprising to them about either you as farmers or about cannabis? So I'm sure that there's all kinds of myths that you have to dismiss, and I'm just curious what some of these myths are that folks have. We definitely talked about some of them, like the gateway and some of the other ones, but what are some of the other things that y'all hear from your neighbors and others when y'all are awakening them and having these very enlightening conversations with them?
Well, I think the biggest thing is that there's a lot of confusion between hemp and marijuana. And people are very surprised to find out that a cannabis plant is a cannabis plant, that it's a different in genetics. I think that's the one that seems the most surprising. And then for me, being able to go out and network within our community and talk to people like Tish, talk to people face to face about what we're doing and what we have to offer, I feel that it helps open up doors that may have been closed just because there's a face with it. There's something personal with it that they can say, hey, this person doesn't seem 100% crazy. Maybe there's something to that. And not 100%, right? So if you can just get somebody to move a slight bit in that more open-minded edge, then that spreads quickly. And that's what we need.
But like you said, the fact that you guys take them yourself and you're not growing 3 heads and you're not in the emergency room and that you use your own product.
Yeah, and I feel like having the kids involved is surprising to people.
Yeah, I was gonna say, not so much for me because I kind of looked the part. There's like, here's all my hemp credentials. But for Jess, look the way that she does, and she's got 3 kids, and she's a CBD user. Like, it kind of breaks down some of those stigmas and those barriers that are typically associated with cannabis. So,
and so you get to know me and realize I'm a hippie, and then you're like, cool.
Then you're like, you got to be on my show, man. But yeah, so having you guys are farmers. Honestly, y'all are special, but y'all are farmers like any other farmer. You guys are growing a crop.
That's right.
And that was part of my point in the beginning is, not only for North Carolina, but for our country, that what is our gross national product except debt, right? So we need to start producing something, for ourselves and maybe for other folks too, because we have, again, like I said, to bring it home to North Carolina, we have the perfect growing environment for cannabis.
Yes.
And, like you can tell us, you haven't even told folks about the plant that grew on your compost pile, like what, 8 foot tall in like 3 months by itself.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So,
It's natural.
I would really encourage everybody. The uses for hemp are just unbelievable. I would really encourage everybody to just, if you have 10 minutes, just go to our website, take a look at our links. We have it's called COVID-19 style events. And you can just click on that link and it'll, you can just click on all the calls to action. It'll take you 10 minutes to write a little letter to somebody who will hear your voice saying, we need this to be legal. We want the research to be done. Not even legal, decriminalized. We just want it decriminalized. We want it to be made use medicinally. And the North Carolina Cannabis Lobby is just working really hard to get that accomplished. They have everything you need on their website too, nccannabislobby.com, but it only takes a minute. And we also have something on our website called a little hemp story, and it is just some clips that we found of thousands of uses for hemp that you can just kind of watch a 4-minute YouTube video. And it is very eye-opening. And one of them is from 1940. The USDA released it themselves. It's called Hemp for Victory.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
Yeah. So, it's just.
For World War II, they were like hemp for victory because they needed fiber for rope and all, cordage and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what they grew. And
whoa,
that was a wasp that just landed.
Okay.
And Jess just found a clip of Henry Ford. He built a hemp plastic car in 1941.
And hemp fuel.
Yeah.
The carbon footprint was non-existent. In
Oh.
all here for us at our disposal. We could be making bricks. We could be making paper. It's endless.
Yep.
Everything. It's a crime that it is criminalized.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Well, right. Because you're right. Because it can be used for so many things, and it grows so fast, so it can you can get so many more turns. Unlike when I was in the construction industry, a big point was trees, right? The lumber we used, the 2x4s, 2x6s. Well, how long does it take a tree to grow to be able to produce a 2x8 for you? But those hemp plants,
even just extracting rock, extracting soil, extracting things from the earth, when you could just be planting something that takes 90 days to grow, and you can use it for all of these things, including medicine. That's a gift. We should be able to have access to that gift.
100%. I think that's a great note to end on too, because it really is a gift.
It's a great gift and everything. I was actually getting ready to try to bring up some of these things that they were talking about, because I had actually found on their webpage the Hemp for Victory. So I thought that might be fun to bring up and everything. So I was actually going to add to the stream and let folks check that out and see what that's all about. You folks will be glad to know that we actually have, as one of our sponsors, our dollar store here on IBM.TV. And one of the things that they do sell here as one of their products is CBD oils and things of that nature. So they actually encourage some of that involvement. So we're glad to see that from one of our primary sponsors here on IBM TV. So they definitely do make that product available and do a good job of that. So like I said, they are able to talk about how it's helped folks with pain and things along that line. So we definitely have had that in the past as well. So definitely just wanted to share that with y'all and all of that. So definitely it's something that is encouraged by a few folks here and all along those lines. But just out of curiosity, I know Tish was getting ready to wrap everything up and we were kind of alluding to it, but what careers were y'all doing before y'all decided to take the mad journey to become farmers? Because like I said, y'all said that y'all were not raised in the farmland here in North Carolina, maybe raised in the city. So what journey were you on before you decided to go on the cannabis journey in terms of what y'all are doing with the farm?
Sure. I had mentioned earlier that I studied horticulture a bit at NC State, but I ended up in the construction industry. And my last job was actually as a restoration estimator, which I went around to insurance claims and wrote estimates on how much it would be to repair those insurance claims. Things like water damages and fire, stuff like that.
But this has been very handy for our curing process because John knows a lot about drying. So we just have kind of felt like everything in our path has kind of helped us lead up to this point. I did a little bit of everything, to be honest. I did AFLAC. I was a paralegal. And before all of this happened, for the 7 years before that, I was a stay-at-home mom. I was staying home with everybody. So we took a huge risk, gave up our one income, and jumped off a cliff like lunatics. And it's been fun.
Well, at least it's a soft fall into the hemp fields, huh?
Yeah, that's exactly right. And you know what? We've got a lot of help with the anxiety. So
Yeah.
that's good.
Well, you're actually helping people is the thing.
Yeah.
That's been one of the coolest parts, to be honest. We get a lot of feedback from the people who use it from us, and we've heard from a bunch of people using it, from things as small as headaches to really, really big, major medical things, and we've gotten great feedback. So that's amazing. That feels amazing to be growing something that's useful and helpful.
And the
Yeah,
fact that you guys do it all natural, there's no pesticides, there's no anything, and the fact also that you guys do it yourselves. So
It's
if somebody if somebody buys anything from Cannabis Consortium, they know that they're getting 100% pure.
Yeah.
That sounds really good. What advice would you give to other folks that might want to be bold enough to try to go into any form of farming, whether it's the cannabis or whether it's anything else? So what advice would you give to folks that are thinking about the new careers? Because I'm sure that there are some people that might be thinking that farming is the way to go with all that's going on in the world, and they might want to go back to the land. Because I remember even my own parents at one point and were part of a small garden collective and everything. So they went to separate careers, one in art, one in the philanthropy world, but they definitely for a minute tried their hands at farming. And my grandparents on my mom's side were definitely into farming. So what advice would you give to folks that want to go into farming, whether that's for cannabis or any of the other farming industries that are out there?
You got anything? All right. My advice would be to really take a hard look at regenerative agriculture and do as much research as they can and work towards that, because it hasn't been it's not something that's really been pushed. We've been relying on synthetic fertilizers for so long that's kind of the way of the world right now. And so anything that they can do to minimize their inputs and to make the ground work for them, not try to work against it, to force it to do things, make the soil healthy and you'll have a good farm. And so that would be my advice, is really, really take a hard look at regenerative agriculture and the practices there and try to adhere to those principles.
That's a great one. Yep.
Yep, that sounds like some great advice. And I have a funny feeling that farming block around the country is going to be a very important block in this next election, because I know a lot of folks are being impacted by different rules and regulations. So I think that that's going to be a real important block, but I'm not sure which way they're going to go. But I'm definitely hoping that the small farmers will come out and turn more for the progressive side, because I definitely feel that block has been hurt by a lot of decisions that have been made, both in the cannabis industry as well as the farming industry in general. Would you agree with that?
That's right. I definitely would.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, we're gonna put up they're just doing some great things and some amazing things over there. But I'm gonna put up that story that you were talking about from 1942, and I know that Tish had also sent some pictures, so I'm gonna see if we can't pull those up of your family, because I'm telling you, the kids look like they were just having way too much fun on the farm, and I think that that's sometimes something that is not known about kids on farms, because I know that can be a real amazing thing. Just to share a little story with y'all, I remember that my parents at one point had a couple of rural products, so they had and rural animals, so they had rabbits. I think there might have been, of course, the cat and dog, chickens, and there was a family goat. And the goat actually wound up being in our rural town, the neighborhood goat, because he was a billy goat. So folks would come just to wrestle the goat. That was kind of their fun of recreation. They would come by and wrestle. And by the way, we were never original in naming our animals. So the dogs were Blackie and Brownie. The cat was Mr. Squirrel, because he chased squirrels. And I want to say, oh, wait a minute, we were original with the goat's name. I think the goat's name was Kissy or something like that. So we were original with the goat's name. But I just remember folks coming by because they knew that they could grab those horns and wrestle them, and they were having way too much fun.
Well, we also, like you said, the kids were having fun on the farm, but anybody can have fun on the farm next week, right, Jessica?
Yeah, everybody can come have fun. Please come out and join us and see us and just take a smell. It's completely free.
Yeah.
We're kind of like Jimmy John's next week, and the smells are free.
And it's on Eventbrite, right? For people that want more information, they can go to Eventbrite, and I guess it Harvest Your Own Hemp is what you're calling it.
Yep, just type in Harvest Your Own, and we've also got a link to it on our own website.
Cool.
Fantastic! It's going to be awesome.
And
Sounds like it's going to be great.
Leading us in some calming Tai Chi, so you should come out and meet her in person as well.
It's going to be awesome. You should come, Mark.
It's going to be great. Thank you so much. Thank you for having us.
Thank you, guys.
Sounds like it's going to be really
Very
great.
much.
Yeah. So we'll go to the Hemp for Victory one and see if we can't bring that up and everything. Hopefully this is going to work. We're going to find out how good I am.
Okay.
So is there noise on this video too, or is it just information?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay.
There's a nice little narrative
From the 40s?
Yeah, I mean it's incredible, and I think the first clip says it's USDA presents Hemp for Victory or something like that.
80 years later, USDA is saying no more, huh?
It's something. It definitely. I mean, I think it's a good point that it seems to go with
the political whatever's going on.
Yeah, and I mean it's interesting about the flu.
No, about the flu. Yeah, if they find it for the use. I mean, I'm still amazed that as of October 30th, we don't know if there's going to be any more cannabis grown in North Carolina, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
our Department of Agriculture is trying, because I think there's 5 states that don't have plans put in place that currently produce hemp under the pilot program. So they're hoping that they can come up with some sort of transition. But, as of yet, we haven't heard anything, and, it's not that far away.
It's not. It'll be here before we know it. How we doing, Mark?
Doing good. It's actually up and running. I think that the audience can hear it. Y'all should be able to hear it as well. I've got it up on full volume.
Oh, so are we not still being broadcast?
Yes, it's still being broadcast. The video's up.
Oh, the video's being broadcast.
Yes.
I get so confused sometimes.
I know, me too. Hang on.
I know. I'm like, what do we do? What are we talking? What are we doing? So, so I think that's it. Thank you guys so much, for real.
This has been really fun. I really appreciate it.
I know you guys had to jump through a few hoops to make it happen today, especially with your long day. But thanks for fitting it in, and I can't wait to see y'all next Sunday. So do I just show up?
Yeah, just show up whenever you want.
Okay, wonderful. And we'll play it by ear somewhat, I guess, and just have a good time.
That sounds amazing. I'm very excited about it.
Me too.
Yay, we do. All right, Mark.
In our hemp field over there, so we're gonna go check on those little wonderful kids.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Tish. We'll see you soon.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
See ya. Well, cool, Mark.
Cool.
Well, we're up here in Virginia, so I think I probably should go, and I know we're starving and we got other things we got to get going. We kind of froze the world for the last 4 hours here.
Yep. Hold on one second.
It'd be fun if you could make it out to the Harvest Your Own next week.
I'll see what I can do. I've got to look at my own schedule, but I know I've got some interviews and some other things going on with the Carolina Theater. But if I can make it, I will definitely try to. But hold on one second. Oops, hold on. That was different. All right. Hold on. I think that it just did something weird. So hold on one second. Well, go back. All right. But yeah, that was part of the video and all of that. So I'll also see about trying to bring up some of their pictures of the family, and then we will wrap this whole up. But definitely they got to see a little bit of the video, and the video is on their website as well if they want to see the entirety of the video.
Yeah.
So like I said, that gave them a taste of what the video was all about and things along those lines. But I'm going to just bring up really quickly some of the pictures from their family farm. I noticed y'all wanted that earlier, so I'm going to
I
try to
thought they
bring
were
some.
really cute.
Oh yeah, those are some great pictures and all of that. So definitely enjoyed those pictures. So hopefully we'll get those coming up some more and see what's going on with their. Oh, there we go. There's some of the
There they
pictures
go.
of the family farm.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do love how they have the family help.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Man, this hotel Wi-Fi. It's good. No, it's not. No, it's good. No, it's not. Yeah, it's good. No, it's not. Like, what the
Understood. There they are talking about you. Cool.
Sweet.
Yeah. But that is, I believe, some of the pictures. See if there's any more that are. Oh, there we go. Some more. Yeah.
I don't think we're on the air, but he's finishing the show. The show's not all the way over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hold on. Let me get ready to wrap everything up. We will bring
can't
up
hear you.
some of the images and everything from the. We'll bring up your brand and everything, and that will wrap everything
That'd
up.
be great.
I don't know if you've got anything else that you want to. Second. We always ask folks, as usual, what they can expect from you next week. So, what do you have on tap for next week? Then I'll bring up your banner and all, and that will wrap everything up. But what do we have on tap for you next week?
We've got Marjorie Ellis with Headcount, and we're going to talk about voting, how important it is to vote if somebody's not registered, how somebody can get registered, and all the back end scenes on what's going on trying to get people to register. People can vote for whoever they want to vote for, but they got to vote. This is vital.
Yeah, definitely got to get out there and get those votes. There's no doubt about that. So that'll be a great show, and I'm looking forward to it. And right now, we're going to bring up the thing that lets folks remind them to come here and watch the show again at 1:00 on Saturday of next week. So that'll be the one that'll deal with voting, but we'll bring up your intro, outro, and then that'll wrap up the show. But I think that they definitely gave a lot for folks to think about and to learn about the cannabis industry. And we'll also bring up our ambassador.
कोरोना से कैसे बचेंगे? ये हैंड होकर और ऐसे अपने खांसी जब आएगी तो ऐसे करेंगे अच्छू अच्छू और कोरोना वायरस को धन्यवाद हमारा म्यूजिक सुनने का.
And last but not least,
We good?